Anas, what are you hearing from Ukraine at the moment? We are being told that the Russian president's speech is still ongoing. What are you hearing from Kyiv?
Well, it's certainly being very closely monitored and watched out. We saw Giorgia Meloni walking in a short while back to right in front of me and walking towards her hotel. She's to meet President Zelensky later today here in Kyiv, and Kyiv is currently very closely monitoring as to what Russian president has to say. Of course, they will deem it as it is certainly provocative, especially the part that where President Putin has mentioned the fact that he will continue to support and until there is liberation that is done. I think that is something that Kyiv would take as a provocation by and large. I am currently at the St. Sophia's Cathedral, right outside the St. Sophia's Cathedral. In fact, I'll just get aside and explain that as 1 year of the Russian aggression and invasion to Ukraine approaches and completes, we see outside the St. Sophia's Cathedral these war trophies have been placed, and if you're able to see, those are tanks, those are cars, trucks, weaponry, vehicles, rockets that have been captured by the Ukrainian authorities. These originally belonged to the Russian side, but they're now put up at display for the world to see. This is at main Kyiv city center. This is the St. Sophia's Cathedral where the display has been put up at. So that explains that the Ukrainian side are not giving up. They would want the world to know that they are putting up a proper fight, and they would do all what it takes to give up, to ensure that the fight ranges on, and they do not end up giving an inch of their territory as what they have been claiming.
Absolutely, and those visuals are very powerful visuals of a show of power by Ukraine as Russian president makes his speech, a speech that was touted to be his sort of a blueprint for as the war enters its second year. And I want to ask you, right in the beginning of the speech, the president also said that Russia is ready to, the military response by Russia, the president is going to take it step by step. How do you think Kyiv is going to react to that?
That is, as I said, Kyiv is gearing up. We've been having this conversation since yesterday as well, that how is Kyiv prepared? Well, Kyiv is gearing up, and Kyiv says that it wants more and more weaponry, it wants more and more armory in their arsenal, so that as and when a Russian offensive happens, as the snow melts, as the temperature recedes, as the snow melts, especially towards parts of east, then only they would be ready for a counter-offensive. They're gearing up for a counter-spring offensive, they're gearing up for a counter-summer offensive on their part, and Ukraine would not be taking such statements or these words or these statements by President Putin quite lightly. In fact, what will also be very closely watched out will be President Biden's address as to what he has to offer to Ukraine. We understand that he was here yesterday here in Kyiv, where I'm standing not far from where we were doing our live earlier this morning. That's exactly where President Biden was, and his speech as to what he has to offer in Poland, that was something we very closely watched out, along with the speech of President Putin.
Absolutely. Greg, I want you to quickly come in on this. As our correspondent just mentioned, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is currently in Kyiv. Yesterday we saw a high-level visit, something that even Volodymyr Zelensky had said is the most important visit in Ukraine's history. So, do you see West kind of stepping up as the first anniversary coming in, is trying to stepping up in the sense that we were with you for 1 year and we will continue to be with you? How do you think that is playing out, the dynamics is playing out with Russia and as the war enters the second year?
Well, it's a great question. I think the support from the West, even symbolic support, is important. And I thought it was brave of President Biden, who's not a particularly brave politician, for him to go there and take some risk, flying in the middle of the night, taking a train from Poland. Good for him and good for Prime Minister Meloni. But I think, one of the issues is that Western Europe actually hasn't delivered. And the U.S. is leading the charge, and the U.K., and actually contributing, weapons, money, any kind of support. But you're not really seeing the follow through from the other Western European countries in terms of putting money where their mouths are. So I think the symbolic support is great. I think it's important, but I think there needs to be some contributions. It's clearly overweighted to the U.S. and the U.K. I also think it brings up and exposes some of the real problems in defense spending in the U.S. and in Western Europe. There is just not enough support for defense, and you're seeing that as weapons and the arsenal is being depleted. That is a great risk, and it's something that President Biden has not addressed or discussed with the American people. So not only is it depleting resources, clearly here in the UK, we're quite worried about the fact that the arsenal is being depleted. But it also raises a point that, generally speaking, defense spending is way too low in the West. We're at a post-war low in the U.S. of 3% of GDP. That number should be 5 or 6%. And in Western Europe, you have many countries below 2%. And I think that's going to change. And if anything, I would hope this conflict exposes some of those problems.
All right. Thank you for all those insights, Greg Swenson, joining us live from London. We will be wrapping up this edition of the broadcast as of now, and we will be closely tracking and decoding what the Russian President Vladimir Putin's speech really means for Russia and the world.